Hey. We're going to talk some embroidery stuff for a little bit. Basics, too. Stuff that we learned when we got into embroidery. We've never done it before. So, the things that we've learned are problems that we see a lot. And it's just simple, basic problems because they don't know what they're doing, or there's so much information out there that maybe they're getting the wrong information or whatever it is. We try to learn a lot. We're still learning. We're going to share things that we learn along the way. Like there's things that we want to start doing, like making patches and stuff like that. But we're going to kind of basically talk about our BAI embroidery machine and just like a basic tension setup, needle setup, things like that. We're going to throw a beanie on it, sew it out, pretty much just kind of run through the basics. You're going to see it kind of a lot. I might be rambling while I'm doing it, so bear with me. Ask questions in the comments. We'll respond to them. You want to see something else? Let us know so we can try our best. It's just me recording the videos most of the time, editing them, everything like that. So sometimes the footage that we get maybe isn't the best, but we're trying. So I mean, when it comes to embroidery, your bottom, your bobbin tension and your top tension need to your basically your thread tension. They need to mesh together, depending on the thickness of the material that it's going through. That changes the tension of the top and the bottom and the way they bind together. Basically, it's like a loop. So you got your tension coming down or your thread coming down in your needle, and then you have your bobbin coming up and around. And as that goes up around, your thread's coming back up. Well, it's looped into it. And then it spins around and does it again and does it again and does it again. So you can run into a lot of issues if those aren't blending together basically perfectly. We're going to talk about what we set up our machine as, what the tensions are, how to adjust the tensions, things like that. It's not really like super in depth because I don't want these to be 45-minute long videos, but this should give you some good information. You want to see more in depth on something, let us know. If people will watch them, we'll do 45-minute, hour long videos. I mean, it's a lot to edit and put together, but if people will watch them, I mean, that's the whole point of us being here is to share what we learn. Hopefully, it helps other people. That's really all we're trying to do with this YouTube thing. So let the haters talk shit about what machine you have. You have a $7,500 machine and they got a $30,000 machine. Great, good for them. They wasted 30 grand. Or maybe it works that much better. I don't know. I don't have one, so I don't know. But this one is doing just fine. So the quality is there along with their $30,000 machine. So I'm a big fan on saving money and having a good ROI. It's a lot of hats or shirts or jackets that you got to embroider to offset that $30,000 mark. But we're going to jump into it. Let's head over to the machine. You have tension knobs up here. And then you have a second row of tension knobs and a third row of tension knobs. These wheels right here are your thread brake sensors. From what I understand. And so I set up my machine to basically be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 needles are dedicated to structured hats. Then we have number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are dedicated to unstructured hats and flat embroidery. So those tensions are set up differently. My 15th needle is my 3D foam needle. So that has a separate tension and a separate needle style. And that's what I run on when I'm doing 3D foam. So what I did was I made this cool cheat sheet basically, grab. Okay, so this cheat sheet I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 14. 15, I know what that is. That's my 3D puff. But I laminated it so I could write what needles I have on, because when we're doing flat embroidery, like on sweatshirts and shirts and beanies and stuff like that, we're using ballpoint needles. When we're doing unstructured hats, we're using sharp needles. Sometimes we'll put a sharp needle on a something else. It really all depends on, like, just we just play with things. But so our flat embroidery, we use 7511 needles, or we'll use what are they, 65 nines, or yeah, 65 nines. But for the most part, we start at 140 GF, great gram force, or gram. I don't know what the GF means, but that's just what we start at that, and then we could fine tune it basically for what it is that we need to adjust for. Or do we need more top tension? Do we need less top tension? But usually, like, 140 is like our good starting point, and then when we're doing structured hats, we're at 180. So on our structured hats, we start at 180. We might need to lower that down, or we might need to raise that up. This thing right here is your best friend. It gets you into the, I don't know why my camera's not focusing that great. It gets you in a good realm. I don't know how 100% accurate it is, but it gets me like, okay, I set it at 180. Now I need to fine tune it based on what the thread is telling me that I need to do. We haven't ran an H test since months. We're right in the right range that we need to be. We're just dialing it in for what it's looking like, as well as the bobbin. You can set your bobbin tension for this. Like when we're doing structured hats, we set our bobbin tension to 26. When we're doing flat embroidery, we set it at 24. Um, we start with the bobbin. If we're having issues, we double check and make sure that our bobbin is dialed in first, because that's the constant between all the needles. So if that's dialed in to where we need it, then we're adjusting our top tension. It's a fine love-hate relationship between the two, because they need to work simultaneously together. So we start with the bottom, or the bobbin, and then we adjust the tops. Once we get that dialed in, it really doesn't change. It's like, we have 200 hats to do. We've already dialed it in. All we're doing is changing the bobbin. Every time we change the bobbin, we check it, just because we found that, like, there's inconsistencies in the bobbin that we use. So, like, we use these sideless pre-wound bobbins from Madeira. I don't know how the hell you say it. But with those, I don't know, we like them. They work good for us, but we found inconsistencies in them where, like, we'll put one in and it'll read at 32 GFs. And so we adjust our tension down on that with the little screw. And then we'll put the next one in and it'll be at 12. So it's like, I don't know if it's our bobbin cases that we've bought good bobbin cases. So we use these new style Toa Japanese bobbin cases, the pigtailless ones. Like, they're not cheap. We buy a bunch of them so that we have bobbins ready to go. So when we need to pop one out, we just pop a new one in. We almost dropped that one. Once I drop it, I just throw it away, because you don't know, did something get bent a little bit? Now it's not working properly. Drives my wife nuts because I spent a bunch of money on them. But when I drop them, I throw them away, even though they still might be good, but I don't know enough about this stuff to know if it's good or not. So we're going to slap something on here, watch it work. We just reset our bobbin hook timing it got all messed up because I screwed something up and let a beanie wrap up into it and tweak everything. So we're gonna throw a beanie in, test it out, make sure everything's working right. Show you guys how we can adjust as we're working. All right, so we're gonna do beanies. So this is how I set up the beanies. I use this deal. I don't have a bunch of the cool snappy frames, so this is a thick beanie. So I'll basically get it pretty loose without it coming apart. Throw our backing paper in there. Grab our beanie. So basically, if it's got a cuff on it, you grab the cuff and then you pull it inside out. And that top is going to be the top of your design. So the way I have it set up, measured everything when I set it up originally, is I put 2 fingers in between these black pieces and the edge of the beanie. And what that does is that just gives me consistency every time. And then we have our water soluble topper. Again, we get everything from Madeira. Keep it simple. What that does is that keeps the thread from sinking into the knit of the beanie. And then I just line it up. So I have these bars, and they basically go along the bottom edge of the beanie. So that's how I keep it straight. And then I just push down on it, and then I grab and pinch there, and then push some more on the bottom piece, and it's ready to go. So now we're going to snap it in. This side goes in there. This part's pretty self-explanatory. Snap it in. What you got to do is you got to grab the bottom of the beanie because you'll screw up your machine. You grab it and then wrap it around the bottom of the arm. That way it's not getting bunched up underneath there. I've done it too where it's sitting on top of the needle plate and I've sewn both of them together. It happens a lot. Just being busy and making mistakes like that because we're in a rush and then you end up throwing something away. So now that we're in there, I've already had this set up, but we'll do it again just to show everybody. Hit trace, normal trace, okay. And what we're doing is we're just making sure that it's going to be in the right spot. It's not going to go too low, it's not going to go too high. So now you kind of got an idea of where it's supposed to be, that it's in the right spot. You can fine tune that by holding the presser foot down and watching the needle as you trace it again. It looks good. So I'm happy with it. So we go over here, we're ready to go. We just hit the start button. So as you can see, we're getting good. Work. We're running at 850 stitches. We can go all the way up to 1,000. Just crank it up. The 6,750 stitch design. So let's say that you're going and you're noticing that it needs more top tension or bottom tension, or just something's not right and you don't know what it is. You can adjust these little knobs a little bit as you're going, as it's stitching. This one, the bottom one, or the one above it on the top up here. Those ones are like your adjustments, your fine tuners. And so you could go one way to tighten it or one way to loosen it. If you don't know which way you need to go, that's what you just got to play with it. It's all trial and error. As you see things happen, you then realize, oh, I need more top tension or I need more bottom tension. So you just move those a little bit, let it go, let it do its thing. If that was like the wrong way or that's not helping, it's starting to look worse, then you go back the other way or go a little bit more. You really got to just play with it. That's the best thing that I could do. That's what we did, and that's how we learned. It's all a learning process. So hopefully that made some sense to you guys. Here's some hats that we did today. Basically, we run our machine 8-10 hours a day nonstop. Whether it's making stuff for ourselves, we give a lot of stuff away just as promotional items, or we have orders, from big orders to small orders. We have a 12-piece minimum, so when we're talking about one-off stuff, we usually don't do that. There's a lot of setup involved and making sure everything's dialed in, and it's not, it's too much work for us. There's people that are totally fine with doing that. Maybe they digitize things themselves, so it's a little cheaper or whatever like that. But we don't. We're kind of more of like a bulk wholesale type service to businesses and organizations and stuff like that. But so we did some hats today, did some beanies, did a bunch of other beanies too. But the quality is there. I mean, that's pretty good in my eyes. This is the infamous Richardson 112. So with our setup that we set it up at, with the starting at 180 GF for our top tensions and 26 GF for our bobbins, and running the 8012 needles on those sharp needles. We don't use stabilizer inside. They're strong enough. They're stable enough. We found that we actually run into issues when we put stabilizer in it, but yeah. So 8012 needles, 180 GF of tension, and we're pretty much don't have to mess with anything. We don't have thread breaks all the time. Like occasionally we have thread breaks. It's that where your machine stops, it beeps at you, it tells you that you got to come back. But for the most part, once we load something on the machine, we hit go. We just walk away and go do other stuff. Either that, whether that's prepping the next hat that needs to go on, or jacket that needs to go on, or cutting away the backing that needs to, after the one that just got done, trimming it up, whatever. I mean, we were a screen printing shop too, so we'll throw something on, go print some shirts, come back, switch them, go back, print some shirts, do like that. Try to stay efficient, but sometimes it's only a 3,000 stitch thing, and it's like by the time you walk away, it's done. So sometimes it's better to just stay there and do it. You got to play with it, but play with those tensions. Don't be afraid. Get some stuff that's like maybe cheap, so that like you're not afraid to screw up. Just to play with it and just dial it in. You could get structured trucker hats for $3-4. Sucks throwing them away, but if it makes it to where you don't have to throw away a $12 hat, then why would you not want to kind of dial it in? They're real similar, so you don't have to like make sure that you have it dialed in for this specific hat. We don't have issues with needles breaking in the seams, or I mean, you could tell from this P right here that it's like in the seam, and we didn't have any issues with how it's stitched or anything like that. So it's play with it. It's like riding a bike. You know, the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. Play with it and play with it and play with it. Ask questions. Ask questions. I don't care if you're on a Tajima, a Barudin, a BAI, a Racoma, anything like that. They all have the same basics involved. You know, it's just who put their brand on it. So until the next one, thanks for watching. Peace.